Living a Healthy Lifestyle show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie Kay.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Living a Healthy Lifestyle show with your favorite holistic health coach, Carrie Kay. And I have a special guest on today that is part of the Gospel Nations TV network. And he and I have been talking about how we are going to collaborate and get this information out to everybody. So I want to thank everybody that joined me today. Milton Wallace is in Chandler, Texas. Is that correct, Milton?
That is correct.
All right, great. Well, welcome to the show today. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So tell me, how is the transition from the educational world to being in business dealing with television?
Well, it's been a rude awakening, to be honest. I was an educator for 30 years. I was a high school principal, and I had structure, doing everything a certain way, getting everything done. And television is a lot like that from the standpoint of having to deal with, making sure things are scheduled correctly and those kind of things. But the business side of things is just a little bit different because you're dealing with a lot of different people, a lot of different industries, a lot of different things, and not everybody's system is exactly the same. Like with school, everything, you go to school, you get into the routine, it's a routine kind of thing. Whereas when you're dealing with this, as far as television goes, you have, like deadlines when things have to be done and stuff like that, but things happen. You know, things don't work out like they need to. Technology doesn't go like it's supposed to. And then you have to be able to improvise, which is the same as you do in education and stuff, but it's just a little different, and getting to this point has been much more, it was interesting because like I said, you're dealing in education, you're dealing with students, you're dealing with kids, and then but now you're dealing with adults, which are big kids in a lot of cases. So you have to try to learn how to work through that and work with them to help them to get things accomplished.
Wow. And what made you decide to enter the world of television?
Oh Lord, it was God. It had to be because it definitely was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an educator, and I was that. And then after that, my goal was to travel and see the world. So I became a travel agent right when I got ready to retire. But God had a different plan because my father passed away and my mom couldn't really live by herself. So I came back home to take care of her, to make sure that she was okay. And when I did that, I was, basically just doing that. A friend of mine approached me that works in television, had worked in television, and said, "Hey, I got this new idea about doing something. There's something new out called Roku." And say, "We need to be able to do our ministry all over the world." And I'm going, uh, I'm sorry, you got the wrong person. You need to talk to someone else. I know nothing about TV. And he said, "Oh, well, I've got two other people that work with me that know they've been in TV with me and everything. And all you got to do is be a silent partner." Well, I thought that was what I was going to do. Well, everybody was still working but me. So they kept saying, "Well, you do this and you do that." So after a while, I was doing pretty much all of it because they were still at work and I was retired. And just so my mom was in the hospital, so I was sitting there with nothing to do. So as time moved on, I ended up doing more and more and more. And now I'm here 13 years later. And basically, I run most of the operations of the whole network and do all that. So it's been an unplanned challenge, but it's a great. I enjoy the people I get to meet and the opportunities I get to have.
Wow, God is really working in television too. I can see and with the Now Christian TV network that you're going to be on soon. So when did you get involved with gospel music production? I'm very interested in that as a singer and songwriter myself.
Well, again, it was all God because it sure was not me. As I work, like I say, working with television, I then got the opportunity. I'd get phone calls from people going, well, would you play my music on on your television network? And I said, well, okay. And so I liked some of the videos, and I started talking to the artists about their music. And when I talked to them, they would tell me stories about their involvement in gospel music. And I was very concerned because it seemed as though a lot of them have been working for a long time to try to be successful, but they just weren't getting anywhere. And I kept saying, okay, do you know this person? Do you know that person? They go, never heard of them before. And I was like, I don't understand that. I've been doing this now for maybe 6 months, and I know all these people, and you don't know anybody. I don't understand how that works. So I said, well, I got to remedy that. So the educator side of me started to get more, connected to the people, and I started trying to help them and, trying to find out about stuff. And then I got off into some of the award shows that go along with it and found out some things about that. And I thought, something's got to be done to help these folks. So then I just started, reaching out, started helping, still showing their videos, and, then talking to friends. And we said, well, we need to do something about that. And then from there, we started different, programs and projects and things like that to help folks. So that's how I got
Wow.
started.
That is such a great inspiration. I've talked to a lot of people that say that it's just happening organically. God is just creating these businesses from our talents and our experiences. So why did you want to become a travel agent?
Well, like I said, my main idea was when I retired, I was going to travel and see the world. And I figured no better way to do that than to be a travel agent. They always said, get paid while traveling. I thought, oh, that sounds good. Sounds really great. And, even though my father passed and my mom couldn't live by herself, I was still able to help people here at my home doing online types of things, helping folks. So I wasn't necessarily traveling myself, but I was able to help others travel. And that was one of the great things about it. And that's one of the main reasons why I continued on, is because I could see I like helping people. And this gave me the opportunity to help folks to, go places, see things, experience things. And it wasn't about making the money for me. It wasn't because I had so much, because that was definitely not the case being an educator. But the thing was is that I was able to help other people's dreams come true, which is the name of my business as well, Dreams Come True Travel. That's really where it came from, because with that, I said, I can make all your travel dreams come true. And so I try to find ways to help people to do what they want to do it at an economical price so that they can get the best, bang for their buck.
Amen. And I know you said you were taking care of your mother for 9 years. What did that
Yes.
teach you? And would you like to share that to those that are taking care of their parents? What would you like to tell them, that they need to know that God has taught you?
Yes. Well, taking care of my mom was a very interesting but rewarding situation. First of all, a man taking care of a lady is, it's awkward in some ways. But my mom and I, we worked that out. We talked about it, worked out the situation, and we had the trust and love of each other enough that we didn't that was ever never an issue. The one thing that I learned a lot of things by doing this, but the one thing I learned most of all was patience. That was something
Yeah.
that I did not have before. I was we got to do this right now. It's got to happen right now. No ifs, ands, and buts. But I learned with her that you can still get things done, but you maybe just have to move at a little slower pace to get it done. But the
Yeah.
bottom line, the important thing was get it done. So that was the thing that I've learned most of all. And I want to tell people that are taking care of their parents, number one, God appreciates you and because you're doing that. He wants us to show reverence to our parents and things. And this is one of the great ways to do that. I know sometimes they can be difficult. Sometimes they don't want to work with you. Sometimes they gripey and grouchy, but you still got to love them anyway. Because when you were grouchy and grimy and complained and didn't want to do what they said, they stuck in there with you. So you need to do that because it's a blessing to you. It's not just a blessing to them, but it's a blessing to you because you learn so much in that process, and God is pleased with that.
Yeah, God is teaching us that they took care of us, so now it's our turn to take care of them, and that's just the bottom line. So that's a beautiful, beautiful story, Milton. Now I wanted to ask you a little bit. I can see you've got some events coming up and stuff. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, I've got a whole lot of stuff going on. Like I said, I work with gospel music. I work with the artists. I also do the television. And so the events that I have coming up, we got a tour that's getting ready to start. As a matter of fact, you can see it in my background here. It's called the Rejoice Tour. Some of the artists that I work with, they'll be coming to Texas. Then they're going to be going, and that's this weekend. Then they're going to be going from Texas to Florida. Then they're going to North Carolina. They're going to be in New York, and then in Georgia, and in Kansas, in the Kansas area. So they're going to be around, but these are independent gospel artists who are basically doing this for free. They love God so much and they love to sing that they're taking their time and spending their money to come around and to minister to the people.
Wow, that is so amazing. And I would love to be a part of that gospel tour sometime with Living Healthy Lifestyle Show. So what are you looking forward that in the future that God is doing in these TV and radio and podcast? I mean, everybody's telling their story, everybody has their experiences. We've seen amazing things that have happened. Um, what are you looking forward to? What do you think? Where do you think God is leading that direction in Christian and TV production? And
Well, I think that number one, at this time in the world as it is today, we need God more than we ever have before. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just the truth. I mean, it's the world is in such a bad situation with so many things going on that God is looking for those to be the light, to be stand up on that hill and be seen and to be heard and those kind of things. He says if we'll just lift him up, he'll draw. So that's what we are here to do. And with my television network that I'm working with here, All Nations TV, my goal with it is no more than to make a difference with one person. Now, if we can make a difference with a whole lot, that's great. But I hope that if there's someone that needs a reassuring word or hear the word in general, that they can turn to our station. It's on Roku, it's on internet. So hopefully they'll turn to the station or pass by and stop with whoever's on at that time. And hopefully that's going to make the difference in their lives. It's going to change their lives forever. They're going to see that there is hope, that not all is lost. God is still there. And all they got to do is just believe, trust, and to give their lives over to Him.
Wow. So do you have a certain story that you could share with us of someone that you worked with that really had great results with it, with
Well,
results with your
I,
show?
I have I have talked to a lot of different people, and I've talked to some of the television shows that we have on the network. And I know one lady in particular, she is in constant contact with us. She'll call in for prayer. And whatever's going, a lot of things going on, she'll call, and one of my business partners that's still actively involved, she'll pray with her, and she'll send back a praise report, letting us know that things, this has gotten better, those kinds of things. And I've seen people talk to people that have been in the hospital, and they are trying to get better, and then they say that they saw the network and they saw certain person on, and how informative, enlightening, and reassuring it was to hear the word. And those are the kinds of things that we hope to hear. That we are doing some things, people are checking us out, and that we are making a difference. And if we can save that one soul, that's all. It makes it all worthwhile.
Oh, right, right. You have a favorite scripture that you want to share with us that you help people with?
Well, it's so many of them that I use all the time, but I like the one that says I can do all things through Christ that strengthens who strengthens me. That's the bottom line for me. I can do all things, not some things, but I can do all things. But I've got to believe in him and let him guide me. That is probably the hardest thing for me to do. I have to admit, I want to a lot of times do things my way. And so I have to get out of myself and let God be let the lead of my life, so that way I don't go astray. So that's one of the things I try to refresh myself on every so often, because that's so important.
It is spending time in the Word, spending time with God, spending time learning, the discernment of what He wants us to do, praying about everybody that comes in our path, that, whether or not we need to work with them or, help them. What is our goal with them? I find that on an everyday life, my schedule, it's the same thing. So, well, why don't you go ahead and shout out all your information, and also to any concert tours that you want to talk about in the last few minutes that we have left.
Okay.
We have about 10 minutes left. So anything that you want to share.
Well, let's start out by talking about how important it is to give your testimony to people and share with people about the goodness of God. Because again, I go back to the point that you just don't know what can be said or done that you share with other people that's going to make a difference. And I talk to people a lot, and like I said, being in an educational side for years, you never think about the impact that you have, or things that you said or did that makes a difference. So you think, well, I can just do anything and it's okay. But I had a conversation this past weekend with a young man that when I was in college, a friend of mine and we went to the same high school. We went together to form a scholarship, and with the purpose of the scholarship was to help somebody from our school to go to the next level. So the young man, the first one we gave the scholarship to, I actually took him to the college to help him get enrolled, to help him go to school, do those kinds of things. And believe it or not, after now it's been right at 40 years, 40 some years, finding out that he's very successful. And he
Oh,
started telling me about all these things that I had said to him or talked to him while we were traveling or while we were talking or whatever. And I forgot all this stuff I said. But he said I never forgot it. My mom was also she was an educator, so she was also his teacher when he was in the second grade. So he was talking about some of the stuff she had shared with him even back then. And he said, "You thought I probably forgot all that." He says, "But it has stuck with me all these years." And he says, "I
oh,
then share it with other people, and that I'm trying to help or encourage or whatever." And I thought, wow, that's all I could say at that point. And I said that to say that you need to be careful how you walk and talk, because you might be talking one thing, but if you're not living it, people won't believe in you and they won't follow you or they won't take your advice. But if they can see you trying to live what you're talking about, they're going to take it to heart, and then know that every little thing that you say, it can affect somebody, one way, positive or negative. But you have to remember that, and you have to live whatever you're talking about too, as well. And so that has been probably here recently, probably one of the most encouraging things that I have gotten is listening to him tell me about the impact that the little thing that I did, how it affected the rest of his life. He's very successful, doing everything he needs to do, but he says, I keep God at front of my life, and I keep him, in the forefront, because not just so he says, I know it's right. My grandmother told me this, blah, blah, blah. He says, but I just never forgot how you encouraged me, and how you talked with me about what I needed to do or not do, or how I need to carry myself or whatever. He said it really affected me. And I thought, wow, that's it. So again, I want people to know that those things do matter. You might not think about it. You talk about lifestyle, how you live, it's all that's all together. It's not necessarily what you eat but it's the whole package of everything that you do that makes the difference. Because people are watching, whether you realize they are or not, or you don't think they are. But people are watching your walk, and they're trying to see if you're really who you say you are. So I tell people, don't forget that. Always remember that most of all, because that's very, very important. And the other thing is you asked me to talk about was what I'm doing now. I work with, like I said, I work with gospel artists. I try to work with them from an educational standpoint as well to help them be better prepared for the business, because I want them to be able to, get the most out of what they're doing, because they're spending their hard-earned money to be able to do the things that God wants them to do. So I want to make sure they understand how the business runs and what they need to do to be able to be successful. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But then they come back and they'll tell you, well, I wish I had it. Yeah, okay. And it's not that I know everything, because I truly don't. The business changes so much. But what I do know, I like to share that with the folks so that way they have a clue about what's going on and how they, need to carry themselves, what they need. And then we go back over that same thing about if you're going to sing about God, then you need to be able to be doing the best you can to live a godly life. You don't need to be singing one thing and doing other things. That's not the way to go. That all it does is cause problems for you in the long run. So we try to talk to them about that as well. But the big thing is trying to explain to them about that this is ministry. It is not, you're not an entertainer. You are maybe entertaining some people, but this is the ministry that you're doing. And the other thing I have to remind them that ministry does cost. Everybody says that ministry, it ought to be free. Well, salvation is free, but ministry costs. And so the people that are doing it, so you got to spend some money to do that. So we try to explain, talk to them about budgeting your money, saving your money, doing those kinds of things. And then we get down to the singing. And so, like I said, I work with them from the standpoint of how to get their name out, how to be, get noticed, how to do the things, how to make good connections, those kind of things. And then we come to things like these tours. We do something we call a gospel explosion. We have those in the area where we get a platform for the artists to perform, to be seen and to be heard, so that others will learn about them. And then we also do this tour we got coming on now. It's called the Rejoice Tour. And these are some of the artists that have kind of, as they maturing and getting, better and better, more and more experience and getting better with the craft. We try to give them an opportunity to go out to sing in other areas, to be able to move around the country, to be able to do some things as if they were some main headliners, and they are for the shows that we do, but they, that way they can be ready to be prepared, because this is a training ground for the next level. So we try to give them this experience so that way they'll know what to expect when they get to that next level.
Well, I am super excited to work with you on my album next year, because this year I'm focusing on some things that God wants me to focus on. But so what advice do you give the new artists that are just putting out an album? What advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, I'd say, again, it's ministry. It's music, but it's ministry first. Okay, so the songs need to have meaning. You can sing a song about a dog going down the street. I mean, no big deal. But it needs to be focused on God, His mercies, something and it needs to be talking about God some kind of way. It needs to convey that message. Number one, that's the first thing. Then, the next thing I tell them is you want the best quality of music that you can have, because it represents you and what you do. So you want to make sure that you have the quality of sound that you want to have. Just don't have anything. Have the best sound that you think you can get. And then you need to have a budget, because you're going to have to pay for the things that go along with that. You got to pay for the engineer. You got to pay for all the distribution. You got to pay to, get it in some places that you want it to go. Then you have to, then after that, then we start talking about working with radio stations and different people on that line, make sure they get the music. So we want to make sure you got all those things. And then I talk about in between the distribution time and the time you get it out to the radio, want to talk about, okay, well, have you done all your paperwork that needs to be done? Is that done correctly? So that way, whatever you do accomplish is that you get credit for that. So we want to make sure that you copyrighted your information. We want to make sure you got your right codes that you need to have. All those kind of things. We want to make sure all that's in place. So that way you know what you're doing and that it is being tracked and documented. And then finally, now we hear the music. Now is the time. If you've done great quality while we're listening, now it's ready to go out to the rest of the world. And then at that point, then you're going to work with people, your fans, your supporters, your family, to get them to help get the information, share it with other people so that they know who you are and what you're doing. So it's a long, drawn out process, but it's something that you have to practice and do over and over again.
Amen. Well, it's been really great to hear all this because it's going to help a lot of people, Milton, because a lot of people that want to become artists don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. I'm personally thinking, okay, I got to get all this other stuff done before I even get started. But it is going to be a journey, but I know God will walk through. And thank God for you that you're helping other people to do that. So shout out your information before we end the show today, Milton.
Okay. Well, if you're interested in finding out about our television network, All Nations TV, you can go to www.allnationswithanstv.com. That's how you get in. That's how you get to check that out. And my email address is Milton, Milton Wallace, Wallace at sbcglobal.net.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all of our viewers that are viewing this today. And we really appreciate you on Living a Healthy Lifestyle Show. And thank you, Milton. We will see you on the Now TV Christian Network soon. And I will let you know when that is. God bless and take care.
Thank you.